Welcome, this is Barbadian Social History 101. We refer to it as My Community. I'm Sherwood McCaskey, thanks for joining us. A very warm welcome to our viewers around the world, those of you who are joining us via the World Wide Web. We ended last week's program on the shorelines of this community's 6 men with brothers Frank and Carol speaking about the erosion that continues to take place here. They are with us again this week, and later in the program they will be joined by another resident, Roberta Sealy. From the shoreline we step inland as Carol, in his inimitable style, begins this week's presentation by entertaining us with stories of the number of characters who, through their very funny act, amuse the people here in this community.
In the village you had some characters. You had a guy called Punkard. Punkard was a very saucy fella, and it was a shop just at the corner of Six Men's Village where Mrs. Graham operated. And Punkard would go in that shop and he would torment Mrs. Graham. Now Mrs. Graham was a nice Christian lady, and Punkard would go in there with his saucy talk. And all Mrs. Graham would tell him is, go out, get out of my shop. And Punkard ain't moving. And he tell him Mrs. Graham all kind of saucy things. At that time Mrs. Graham's husband is sitting there. But he don't care. You know, you had Ratty. And Ratty was a mason. The strange thing about Ratty is his hands were hard because of working with cement and whatnot, but the soles of his feet were apparently very soft. And he couldn't walk, even when he walked in shoes, he walked very light because the soles of his feet were apparently very soft. Hard palms, soft soles. Yeah. There are a lot of other characters in Six Men's. There was Kerry. Kerry was one of those guys who got intoxicated 3 and 4 times a day. You would see him a certain time, he'd walk in, come across the road. It would take about an hour to get 100 yards. You go home. An hour after, he would come back out, sober as a judge. 45 minutes after, he back home again. Same state. And he would do it 3 or 4 times a day.
There is also the daily occurrence of an event that quietly disturbed the late afternoon time of relaxation and togetherness here in the community. That will be followed by more experiences associated with the same individuals and others. Carol remembers fondly.
And this is hilarious now I look back at it, really. Right above here, you see where that thing tree is? Right on that spot, there was an old lady who lived there called St. Telia. We live right here. Now on evenings, about 4 o'clock or so, people would get a fresh. You know, children would get a fresh or whatever they would put on, especially during vacation time. And they would sit down on the front step watching the cars pass and the people pass. Because there weren't a lot of cars. But you would sit, the windows would be open. My mother, my great aunt would be sitting down watching, looking out, listening to Request Time on Radio Fusion, perhaps. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, a stench would pervade the area. Don't ask me what it is, but let me tell you something. From the time you turn the corner, Six Men's Corner, until you get at least by the church, this area in between it, you had to hold your nose. Because people will be holding the belly and want to puke. I don't know what it is that lady used to mix. But she used to do it regular, especially when she see people sitting down outside and so on. She would do it. One morning she came down between Brandon's house and our home with a pail on her head. She was going to throw something, I don't know where it is, in the sea. And she came down. Now behind us there was a marshmallow tree with a branch that ran almost horizontal to the beach. So if you go out, you had a duck to go. Apparently, when she got there, she didn't duck low enough, and the pail hit the bottom of the thing, and upside down she got, and whatever it was in the pail doused her and the area around her. Would you believe me if I tell you that for weeks after, the area where she fell was discolored? For weeks. Yeah. That lady was something else. She was something else. The house next door, when the lady there, Miss Alice Corbin, she started to repair her house. And she did not put any window in the north side of her house because of that. She couldn't put any window there. That lady was something else. You see him, Alice Corbin, another strange individual, but strange in a different way. Fellas will be sitting down on Brandon's step and they will make a noise as though a car horn pass or something, and you'll see the top of her head looking out. And as regular as the fellas would make that noise, whatever she doing, she would stop doing that and she would come at people. In 1976, when the Democratic Labour Party lost the government, Alice started to get on strange. Now she and my mother and my great aunt used to talk, and she would come over and she would tell my aunt and my mother how this man on the radio fusion talking to her and telling her that she know that she ain't vote for Barrow and he coming for she. And my mother and them trying to convince her, no, nobody can know who you vote for and so on. Can't convince Alice. Alice ran away from her home because Alice believed that Harold Barrow was coming for her because she didn't vote for him or he lost the government. She ended up spending the last of her days living at a lady's house in Spuckstown, Queen Street, Spuckstown. Left a perfectly good house, ran away from it because of that.
These are the funny stories that give character and life to our communities. Here now to a hilarious story about 6 men's connection with the United States Naval Base.
Apparently when I was about a year old, I was in the front house of where I born here, on the floor, on a blanket, on the floor. In the house next door, they used to entertain guys from the U.S. Naval Base. And this particular day, there was this guy in this house from the Naval Base, drinking and carrying on and whatnot. And in the house was a guy who was a trickster, who apparently was dressed like a woman. And fellas believed that he was a female. I don't know what was promised or whatever. As I said, it's the story told to me. But when push came to shove, people would say, the guy discovered that this person was not in truth what he was supposed to be. And basa sir. And the guy who ran up to the house ran down between the two houses, behind the paling, and way gone across the beach. And when he was running and go across the beach, apparently on the way he passed a fence, and the can that he was wearing got caught in the fence. And he said, let go, let man go run. You see a man in trouble, holy, let go. I don't know if he realized that with the fence that had caught the end of the can, because you know what a can is? Can was like a bone thing that you used to wear under the dress, and the girls got their dress off, you know. Now the Yankee came out after him, saw him turn behind the paling, thinking now that he had come in by us, started a big cussing and carrying on in the alley. My great aunt's husband opened a window and looked out and asked him what he carrying on so for. And the man started carrying on, and there was a exchange of words between my great aunt's husband and this Yankee. The Yankee man took up a stone and threw it at my great aunt's uncle through the window. And they tell me that the stone fell a few hairs breadth away from my head on the floor. When my father was working at the Spikestone Shell gas station at the time. When he came home and I told him about it, he was very, very annoyed. And looking back at it now, I'm very glad that he perhaps was at home when that happened, because it could have escalated further.
Speaking about the Naval Facility, there was another connection with this community that is worth noting.
Well, what I could tell you is that when the Naval Facility was, when they were constructing that, there were a number of guys from 6 Mines who actually worked down there. My great uncle, Edric, and the fellow Collins. I think there were several of them who worked down there, and other guys from 6 Mines worked down there in the construction of the facility. The boat that brought the material to construct the facility used to come in here at 6 Mines. It would come straight to the beach, and like down is the body, the back or the front, I don't know which, because I would have been only about a year, couple of months old when this thing was going on. And they would drive off onto the land with the material, and so, as a matter of fact, we have a picture. I have a picture that was taken in December 1956. The same month that I born, the same year, with a lot of people standing on the bridge, 6 Mines Bridge, watching the things come off the boat. And this picture was taken actually by a sailor on one of the boats.
As children, many of us were told stories about the Heart Man. And while it is on record and a man was indeed hanged in 1952 for committing an act associated with the Heart Man, the majority of the stories seem to have been all part of folklore. The children of this community here, 6 Men, also spoke of such a man who made his presence felt in the community.
Oh yes, the Heart Man. They had this guy, Sugar Soil, from, I think he was from Ashton. There is a story about Sugar Soil and a little child going up Maynard's towers, because you got Maynard's, when you get a certain area, you could go through the gully on the right hand side and come out in Ashton. So apparently he had a little child in the crocus bag, and somebody asked him, what have you got there? He said, young pig. And the child said, no, no, it's me. We used to live here, okay? And the guy that lived next door, the guy called Brandon, Sugar Soil used to frequent that house. And whenever Sugar Soil come there, we ain't coming out, you know. Whenever Sugar Soil is 6 men at that house, Frank and I ain't coming out of that house. And he always used to walk with a crocus bag. I have never seen the man without a large crocus bag. Sometimes the crocus bag ain't got anything, but he got it folded up on the arm or whatever, but always with the crocus bag.
You could sense the joy and pleasure of being a resident of this community. Carol evidently enjoyed his days here in 6 Men.
We had a lot of fun growing up in 6 Men. Vacation times, we would build tents on the beach below the house, coconut palms. We would build tents, get all galvanized for the top. And for the whole vacation, we would got a tent there. Fellas would cook on the beach, go in the tent and eat. We would tell stories in the tent, you know. So we had enough fun exploring the 6 Men's Gully.
Yeah, one of my neighbors, a guy called Ratcliffe. This guy was a guy that he attracted some sort of, I would say trouble, but he always got in some sort of trouble, put that way. Yeah. Yeah, because I remember an incident too where my brother and I, along with a number of other guys from down here, we went exploring the gully. 6 Men's Gully. Yeah, 6 Men have a gully as well. We went exploring the gully.
At that age, 13, 14 years old, we were heavily indoctrinated by television. You know, those voyages to the bottom you see, Star Trek, and so on. So we would imagine ourselves as pioneers going through the gully. We don't know what we're looking for.
And we came across this big can just up a little cliff. So now, as young boys, we want to explore what in this can. So we gone up this side of the hill to go look in the can. And when we gone, this guy was in front. Ratcliffe was in front. And he actually stick his head into the can. When Ratcliffe followed his head over the can, we could see his face. It was covered with bees.
We would have been going in that gully for years. And nobody ever went up there and find out what was in that tank. Until that particular day, he decided he can climb up there and poke his head in the tank. And when he do so and come back out, bees.
His face was covered with bees all over. And all we could do is just run.
And the bees ran us right through the gully, back down through the riverside where Port Ferdinand is now, up onto the tunnels in the road, straight in the sea. With our clothes on, because that was the only way to get away from the bees. And the bees behind you, are you going? And a whole line of bees, and we running coming out.
When we got right now, his face all swollen up with the bees and so on. I didn't get bite. I don't think many of us got bitten by the bees, but he was the one that got all these things. The bees just had him in a mess, man.
It is God's grace that the body had fall down and break the hand or the foot, because coming through the gully, you had these big boulders that you had to maneuver over. But he was a thrill seeker.
Yep. And then the other incident with him, because his nickname before he left Barbados to go overseas to live was Knucker, because he went playing with a dynamite cap when they were building the Haywoods Road. Yes, coming from school, he found this dynamite cap and he went playing with it, and it blew off a joint of his finger. So from then he got the nickname Knucker. So even if he was to come back to Barbados tomorrow, they say Knucker. You know, only certain people know why I call it that, because he had that knucker finger that he got from the dynamite cap blown off. Yeah, so that, you know, because growing up as boys, you always, you know, we were always into exploring stuff, exploring places all around.
When the road at Haywoods, which is now the bypass road, the KNR Husbands Highway, when that was being constructed, on weekends, it didn't work on weekends, so they used to leave a small rock structure down there. And we go at Hayward's for coconuts. And one Saturday, we decide we can try something. We go onto the rock structure and we remove the stone from behind the wheel and push it a little way up the grade, because it was parked on a, got in it, and we steer and come down, and each man had an opportunity to do it. This particular fella, when he got his opportunity to come down now, everybody came down safe. When he came down, he turned the steering sharp at the corner, and the rock structure do so, and turned over. It's a good thing he didn't get his foot caught under the wheel. The guy was down in the area, the grass piece area, cutting meat for his sheep, and saw us. He knew my father, and he knew before we got home what had happened.
There weren't as many houses in 6 Mines as there are now, so the back was a lot of wilderness, so to speak, right? And in those days, we used to explore the back a lot. We used to go through the back, go through the gully, and explore all the back and so on, search for fruits and so on.
Yeah, and going under the same bridge, they had 3 big holes, 3 big holes. And at first, I didn't know what they were for, right? And we used to go up in there. They had a kind of like swamp. We used to go up inside, all up inside. And I mean, yeah, where Port Ferdinand is now, there they have, but they take down everything. And that too, when the sand's ready, it used to build up and you could hide the holes. You wouldn't know that holes were there. But then when the rain fall now, the rain will push away the sand, and then you could go up inside and explore and run boat. You could go all up in the village and run boat.
Well, 6 Mines at the time didn't have a pasture or playing field for the youngsters to play. And that area was an area where it was during the wet season, it would gather water, and it was actually like a pond. But during the dry season, it would dry out. And the ground used to be crusty and dusty, like a desert. And the guys used to use that as the playing field. So you'll find the guys play cricket, football, all that they play in that area. That was the official playing field for 6 Mines at the time. Because the land used to belong to a doctor, Dr. Rogers. And he was one of the main doctors down here at the time. Because we had Dr. Rogers, and we had Dr. Gilmore, and we had Dr. Smith. That the area now where is the Marina Lagoon, where the boats sail into. That was that area.
Speaking about this area that leads directly into the sea, and mindful of the fact that it is indeed a fishing community, you would expect individuals to be taught the rudiments of swimming here.
I learned to swim right here. Right here I learned to swim. What they used to do to teach us how to swim, people may say it may be cruel, but they would carry you out on a tire. You remember the big tractor tires you used to blow up? They would carry you out on a tire. And when they get about the mooring, we used to call there the mooring where the boats out there, they will let you go. And then they now will swim and left you. So you will go bottom a good couple of times. But if you got the determination, them and left in me, you gonna learn how to swim. And I learned to dog paddle. That's the first swimming lesson. I learned to dog paddle. And I tell myself from that day, no, I got to learn to swim. And I learned to swim right here. My father had this thing, see every day. Cod liver oil on a Saturday with a little lime or shark oil, and see every Sunday.
The sea seemingly linked the 6 Men community and Spikestown. In fact, as you will hear from Frank, you got the sense that it was just a stone's throw away from the community.
In those days, Spikestown appeared a lot closer than it is now, because there was the old road, the old Havens Road that go through Havens Trees. Now Havens Trees was a place that people used to be scared of, especially at night, because there was no light. And that old road, which is the road now that will be through where the hotel is, that road, it had the trees growing over the road, so it was kind of like very dark area. And when at a certain time at night, nobody wanted to walk through there at all, right? But when we ran from school, sometimes we ran through that road. It would take about, 10 minutes to get home. Yeah.
You understand? And let me tell you something. Don't think that when 6 men had minibuses like how them passing now, we had to walk. We had to walk through Haywards, Cheese on, just to get to the transport board or thing to catch the bus. And as a child, Cheese on, that was taxing.
And in those days, too, you could have walked on the beach. You could have walked on the beach from Spikestone to 6 Mains, vice versa. So it was a lot easier. It's not like now we have the marinas that block it, the passageway light. But you could have walked on the beach side, straight to Spikestone. Straight to Spikestone. And we come in there by Sandy Street and onto the road. So running from there was a normal thing. It was, at the time we didn't know it was a good exercise, you know, but everybody still tried to see who get home first. So when school over at 3 o'clock, everybody just down the road and straight the road, especially during the flying fish season when we know we come in to do our thing with flying fish.
Although this is not the original bridge, we could not conclude our journey here in this community without calling attention to a very popular event that occurred here weekly and of which Roberta has fond memories.
Every Sunday was a tradition. We're now seeing Nikki Beach was the store. That's what we used to call it, the store. We used to call it round the store. Every Sunday, almost everybody from the neighborhood. That time you unlocking the doors, you know. Everybody from the neighborhood used to go on the bridge. Now that bridge is not the right bridge. That bridge is a made-up bridge. So we used to go on the bridge, and on that bridge, we would line the whole bridge. I mean, everybody from any community. And we would be there all Sunday. And around the store, we had cannons. We had about 2 cannons that used to face out to the sea. And it was the best life ever.
Isn't it wonderful when you could describe your childhood experiences in your community with such words? The best life ever. Thank you, Roberta, Carol, and Frank. And so we conclude our journey here in the community of 6 Men. Here is a special invitation for all of you to join us again next week at the same time as Pastor Mark Clement and Cheryl Griffith regale us with memories of Mile and a Quarter. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. Thanks for your time.
People want to know.